Birthdays used to mean something. When I was a kid, they were all about cake and noise and being the center of attention. As I got older, it turned into texts from people I hadn't talked to in months, maybe a dinner out if I was lucky. But this year felt different before the day even started. Not in a good way. I woke up with this. Wait, that's the only way I can describe it. Not a hangover, not stress. Just a heaviness in my chest. Like something was sitting on me. Couldn't shake it. And it wasn't from aging another year. I've never been that sentimental about turning the page. The house was quiet when I got up. Too quiet. Jennifer was always an early riser, especially on travel days. She told me a week ago she had a weekend trip planned with the girls. Spa weekend, no phones, digital detox, yada yada. I'd smiled, wished her fun, even joked about how I'd survive without her. But deep down, something about the way she'd said it didn't sit right. I headed downstairs, still in sweatpants and rubbing sleep from my eyes. That's when I noticed the first thing that was off. The couch cushion. The pillow had a clear dent in it, like someone had been there recently. It wasn't subtle. You know how some cushions slowly puff back up after you get up? Not this one. It was still sunken in like someone had just stood. And that's when I saw the hat. It was sitting right on the armrest of the couch. Navy blue, with a faded California driving school logo on the front. The brim was curved from use. This wasn't some new accessory Jennifer had picked up. It was lived in, worn, like it had a history, and it definitely wasn't mine. I don't even wear hats, except for the occasional ball game or yard work. But this one had that used, familiar feel, like its owner had tossed it there without thinking. Like it was normal, but it wasn't. Nothing about it felt normal. I stared at it for a long moment, longer than I want to admit. My brain tried to catch up to what my eyes were telling me. It's weird, the way the smallest things can hit you the hardest. Not a dramatic confession, not a shouting match. Just a stupid hat that didn't belong in my house. Then I noticed the glasses. 2 of them sat on the coffee table. One had a faint smear of lipstick on the rim. Jennifer's shade. Coral pink. Same one I saw her reapply in the car mirror before dinner 2 nights ago. The other glass was half empty. Water. No ice. Not dirty but not clean either. Looked like it had been sitting there long enough to start evaporating. My mind kept doing this thing where it tried to make excuses like it was buffering. Maybe it was a neighbor's hat? Maybe she borrowed it? Maybe one of her friends stopped by early for the trip? But even as I tried to think that way, I knew I was lying to myself. I hadn't heard the door. The alarm system hadn't chimed. The couch was still warm. That's when I heard the shower shut off. Upstairs. I stood there frozen in the living room, staring at that stupid hat like it was a bomb waiting to go off. My thoughts weren't even coherent, just fragments firing off. Who was in my house? Who had been sitting here last night? Was she going to pretend nothing happened? A few minutes passed before I heard the familiar creak of the bathroom door. Then footsteps, hers, barefoot, confident, like nothing was wrong. Jennifer came down the stairs with her hair wrapped in a towel, skin still flushed from the shower. She looked good. Too good. She was wearing one of those travel sets, soft matching sweats in light gray, fitted just right, minimal makeup but perfectly put together. Like she wanted to look effortlessly pretty. She smiled when she saw me. "Morning, birthday boy," she said, walking over and kissing me on the cheek like it was any other day. Her tone was light, cheerful, too cheerful. I didn't say anything. I didn't trust myself to. She moved into the kitchen, opening the fridge and grabbing her overnight oats. The ones she prepped when she was trying to eat clean. She didn't even glance at the living room. Not once. Like she didn't see the hat. Like she didn't expect me to see it either. She opened the fridge again and grabbed one of those fancy coconut waters she buys in bulk. "So I was thinking of leaving around 9, she said, peeling the seal back. "That way we miss the traffic out of the city." "We as in." I let the sentence hang. She looked at me, paused, then smiled again. "Me and the girls. I told you, remember? It's that retreat in Arizona. Hot stone massages, hiking, no phone signal. I might go dark for a bit, but I'll check in when I can." Her suitcase was already sitting by the door, packed, shoes clipped to the side, neatly folded jacket draped over the handle. She had done this all last night, apparently. Quietly, while I was asleep, I walked over to the couch, picked up the hat and held it out to her. "This yours?" She blinked. Her smile faltered just slightly, just enough to notice, then returned like a switch had been flipped. "Oh, that? I think that's from one of the neighbors. Mike, maybe? He stopped by to borrow the hedge trimmer." "Mike hasn't been over in weeks." She didn't respond right away, just took a sip of her drink, then said, "Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Could have been someone else." My throat tightened, but I nodded slowly and set the hat back down, exactly where I found it. I wasn't going to press her. Not yet. I just wanted to see how far she'd go with it. She breezed around the room, collecting things: phone charger, lip balm, sunglasses. Her hands moved with purpose. Not rushed, not frantic, like she'd rehearsed all of this. "Anyway," she said, slipping her sandals on, "don't be a stranger while I'm gone. I left food in the fridge, and I made a note of your dentist appointment Monday, just in case you forgot again." I followed her to the door, heart pounding. She turned to me, her hand on the handle, and leaned in for another kiss. I let her. Her perfume lingered, something new. Not her usual floral scent. This one was musky, unfamiliar, *mate. "I'll miss you," she said. I didn't answer. Couldn't. She opened the door, sunlight flooding in, and wheeled her suitcase down the steps. The wheels clacked against the concrete like a countdown. And then she was gone. Just like that. I stood there in the doorway for a long time, staring at the spot where she'd been. The silence in the house wasn't peaceful. It was hollow. And I knew, without needing more proof, without needing to dig through her phone or check receipts, that I had just watched my marriage cross a line. That was my birthday gift. Not the watch she wrapped 2 days earlier. Not the card she left on the counter. Not the plans she promised for after the trip. No. What I got that morning was a feeling in my gut that something inside my life had broken. And the worst part? She acted like I wouldn't notice. After Jennifer left, the silence in the house wasn't the comforting kind. It didn't invite rest or reflection. It interrogated me. Every corner of the space felt suspicious. Every object, every faint sound, was suddenly alive with questions I hadn't known to ask. I stood there for a long time, staring at the closed front door like it had just betrayed me. The California hat still sat on the armrest, like a guest who didn't bother cleaning up after himself. I didn't touch it again, didn't throw it away. I just let it sit there and taunt me. That dent in the couch cushion started to feel like a scar. Fresh, visible, impossible to ignore. I tried to shake it off. Made a pot of coffee. Folded the blanket that had slipped to the floor. Opened the windows like fresh air could fix what I couldn't name. But it didn't help. Nothing helped. And the more I tried to return to normal, the more I realized how far I drifted from it without ever noticing. That morning dragged. It was my birthday, after all. Should have been a day with texts from family, a call from my mom, a beer with a friend maybe, but I couldn't bring myself to respond to anyone. I didn't want to pretend. Not while the image of Jennifer walking out the door, with a lie carefully folded into every corner of her suitcase, played on a loop in my head. And so I sat, and thought, and let my mind do something I had been avoiding for months. Rewind. It's funny how much we miss when we want to believe everything's okay. Like your brain installs blinders just to keep you safe. But now those blinders had fallen off, and I couldn't stop myself from looking backward, with new eyes, sharper eyes. There had been signs. Way before the hat. Way before this birthday morning. Little things. Always little things. Her phone, for starters. Jennifer used to scroll openly, laughing at memes, showing me pictures of outfits she wanted or sending me dumb videos at work. But over the past few months, the screen always faced down. Notifications off. Her smile when texting turned guarded, like someone trying to hide something behind their teeth. Once, I asked her who she was texting, just casually. She paused, half a beat too long, then said, "Oh, just Sam from the group chat. She's being dramatic again." I nodded, didn't question it. Why would I? It's just a group chat, right? Except Sam called her 2 days later and mentioned not having texted all week. There were more red flags, only I didn't call them that at the time. Like the time she canceled our Friday lunch, said she had a last-minute meeting. That used to be our thing, Friday lunches. Our way of checking in midweek. She was always excited for them. But then they stopped. Or the way she started going to bed later than me. She'd wait until I turned in, then hang back to finish a few emails, or watch one more episode. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. and find her side of the bed empty. I'd find her in the bathroom, sitting on the edge of the tub, phone in hand, screen dimmed so low you couldn't see what she was looking at unless you were standing right over her. She'd always smile. Couldn't sleep, just catching up on some reading. Reading what, though? Emails? Novels? Texts from someone who wasn't me? Then there was the perfume. That might sound petty, but I swear, Jennifer never changed her perfume. She'd worn the same soft floral scent since our second year of dating. Said it reminded her of spring in Vermont, where she used to spend summers with her grandmother. That was her thing. Sentimental. But lately she smelled different. Musky. Woodsy. Stronger. Like something you'd wear for someone new, someone you wanted to impress. I asked her once about it, and she just waved it off. Oh, they were out of mine. I'm trying something new for now. Trying something new. That phrase stuck with me more than I wanted it to. And it wasn't just her habits, it was her attention. She stopped leaning into my touch. That was the first real change I felt in my bones. I'd reach for her hand on the couch, and she'd pull it away like she needed to scratch her leg or fix her hair or grab her phone. Always a reason. Never outright rejection. Just enough excuses to make it seem like nothing. She stopped laughing at my jokes. Not all at once, but gradually. Used to be, she'd light up over the dumbest things I said. That quiet wheeze laugh she had when she really lost it. I hadn't heard that in months. I tried harder. Pushed for a smile, even a smirk. Sometimes all I got was a nod. Or worse, a tired glance. You okay? I'd ask. Just tired, she'd say. And I believed her. Stress, I told myself. Work deadlines. Hormones. Maybe burnout. We'd been together a while, after all. Wasn't it normal for things to settle down? The fire doesn't burn as hot after a few years. That's what people say, right? Only now I realized it wasn't stress. It wasn't burnout. It was distance. Not the kind that comes from growing apart. No, this was something different. This was her shifting slowly, methodically, away from me and towards something else. Or someone else. She'd been disconnecting piece by piece, and I'd been too distracted to see it. Too trusting. Too content with the surface version of our life. And maybe that's on me. But now, every memory, every detail I thought was ordinary, started to sharpen. Her laughter with friends that stopped when I entered the room. The new lacy lingerie I found in the laundry that she claimed was just for fun. Even though I'd never seen her wear it. The weekends she said she was catching up on errands, but came home with nothing new. How many times had I swallowed those questions? How many times had I let her distract me with a kiss, or a change of subject, or that same tired excuse? Don't worry so much, babe. I sat back on the couch and stared at the ceiling. The quiet was loud now. Every tick of the clock felt like an accusation. She had been slipping away from me inch by inch, and I had let her. And the truth was, maybe I didn't want to see it. Because once you start admitting the signs, you have to admit what they add up to. You have to do something about them. And doing something means you can't go back to pretending. But this time, there was no pretending. The hat, the warmth in the cushion, the second glass, her towel-dried hair, fresh after a shower that wasn't meant for me. It was real now. And once you see the cracks, you can't unsee them. You start noticing them everywhere. In her texts, her tone, her absence. You start questioning everything. What did she mean when she said she needed space last weekend? Who was she texting during our anniversary dinner? When she thought I wasn't looking? Was this the first time someone else had been in our house while I was asleep upstairs? Or just the first time I caught it? The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was realizing how easy I'd made it for her to hide. The strange how quickly suspicion turns into obsession. That morning after Jennifer left, I told myself I'd let it go, that I'd give her the benefit of the doubt, even if every instinct in me was telling me not to. But by the time the sun started sliding past the blinds, and the silence in the house grew deeper than anything resembling peace, I knew I was lying to myself. I wasn't going to let this go. And I wasn't just suspicious anymore, I needed answers. Around mid-afternoon, I grabbed my keys and took a walk. No direction, just a need to move, to get out of the house. Every room inside felt like it was holding its breath, like even the walls were waiting for the truth to land. I walked the neighborhood in a daze, barely registering the sounds of leaf blowers, kids playing down the block, or the barking of a dog behind someone's fence. I think I passed the same street twice. My feet were moving, but my mind was still at home, replaying her voice, her bag by the door, that damn hat. When I looped back onto our street nearly an hour later, there was a car parked around the corner I didn't recognize. Black sedan, tinted windows, engine off. Guy inside, mid-30s maybe, sunglasses on, smoking something, probably a vape from the look of it. He wasn't on his phone, wasn't reading anything, just sitting there, watching, or waiting. As I got closer, he glanced up. Our eyes met for half a second. He straightened his posture slightly, then turned the key and drove off. Slow, like he didn't want to draw attention. I watched him disappear around the bend. No plates I recognized. Not a neighbor's car. Not anyone I'd seen before. My stomach turned. Could have been nothing. Some random guy pulled over, making a call, grabbing a smoke. But that sick little twist in my gut said otherwise. I rushed up the driveway and stepped inside the house, heart pounding like I'd just run a mile. Something was off and I needed to know what it was. I don't know what made me go upstairs first. Maybe some part of me just expected to find something waiting, some leftover trace of whoever had been here. I moved down the hallway toward our bedroom, eyes scanning everything like I was seeing it all for the first time. That's when I saw it. Sitting on the bedroom windowsill, barely visible behind the curtain. A crumpled napkin, lipstick on it. Not coral pink. This one was deeper, redder. Not Jennifer's. I know that sounds weird. Who keeps track of lipstick shades? But when you live with someone long enough, you know what they wear. And this one was wrong. Next to it was a folded receipt. I picked it up slowly, like it might burn me. The logo at the top was unmistakable. White linen luxury, embossed in silver. Hotel Monarch, Santa Barbara, premium suite. One guest, one night, booked under Jennifer Randall. Dated 2 nights ago. Not Arizona. Not a spa getaway with friends. Not even close. I sat on the edge of the bed, receipt in one hand, napkin in the other, and just stared at them. The silence in the house wasn't a void anymore. It was echoing, loud, mocking. My chest tightened. For a moment, I thought I might be sick. I stood up, paced the room, then sat down again. It was like my body didn't know what to do. Run, scream, collapse. I forced myself to breathe slowly. I set the receipt on the dresser, walked over to the desk, and opened my laptop. We still had a shared email account for stuff like billing, house maintenance, reminders. I hadn't checked it in a while. I pulled it up and typed in the password. Her childhood dog's name, still unchanged. There it was. A confirmation email. Your stay at Hotel Monarch has been successfully reserved. Same date, same details. A second email confirmed late checkout. The guest field still said 1, but I wasn't that naive anymore. My fingers hovered over the mouse. I hesitated, then clicked open her Instagram. Her profile looked the same as always, clean, curated, subtle. But there was a new story posted early that morning. I tapped it. There she was. Wind in her hair, sunglasses on, some trendy white dress with flowy sleeves, cocktail in hand. She was on a boat. No, a yacht. The ocean glimmered behind her like a backdrop from a travel ad. She smiled at the camera, big, radiant, carefree. Not a trace of tension. Not a flicker of the woman who kissed me goodbye 12 hours ago. The next clip played automatically. Someone else had posted this one. Username @WriterCollex. Mutual followers. None. The video opened with music in the background, some upbeat song I didn't recognize. Jennifer was dancing, laughing, holding a drink in one hand. Ryder, whoever he was behind her, arms wrapped loosely around her waist. He leaned in close, whispered something. She didn't pull away. She tilted her head back and laughed. There was no one else in the frame. No girls' trip. No friends. No spa robes. No retreat. Just her and him. On the water. Together. And her wedding ring? Nowhere in sight. I closed the app and set my phone down like it might explode. My hands were shaking. I wasn't suspicious anymore. I wasn't wondering, theorizing, connecting dots that might not connect. I had the truth now. Cold. Brutal. Fully exposed. She lied. And not just a white lie. Not just a quiet omission to avoid tension. She built an entire story. A fictional weekend. Packed a bag. Hugged me. Told me she loved me. Then climbed into someone else's car or bed, or both. And now, here I was, sitting in our bedroom, looking at a receipt for a place I'd never been and watching a version of my wife I didn't recognize dance with a stranger in the sun. Everything started unraveling at once. The hat, the cushion, the shower, the lipstick, the napkin, the story she fed me about Arizona, about no phones, about spa treatments and unplugging and just needing time with the girls. She hadn't unplugged. She hadn't gone off-grid. She'd gone live, apparently, posting stories, posing on yachts, kissing someone I'd never heard of. My whole life had just been turned inside out in under an hour. I sat there, trying to decide what hurt more, the betrayal or the ease with which she delivered it. How effortlessly she'd lied to my face. How natural it seemed for her to live a double life. How I hadn't even seen it coming until now. I'd been married to this woman, slept beside her, shared a mortgage, built routines and rituals and grocery lists and inside jokes. And now I was just the guy she kept in the background while she slipped into someone else's story. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there, numb, watching the last few years of my life get rewritten in my head. She didn't even try to hide it well. That's what got me. She must have thought I'd never look, that I'd never question, that I was too trusting, too predictable. And honestly, she was right until now. I picked up the receipt again, folded it neatly, slid it into a drawer, not out of denial but to preserve it, because this wasn't over, and I wasn't going to let her rewrite this ending without a rebuttal. She'd handed me the truth. Now it was my turn to do something with it. Jennifer came back 2 days later, exactly when she said she would. Saturday, late afternoon. Not early, not late, just on time, like a commuter arriving at her regular stop. Her suitcase clattered softly against the front steps, and I heard her keys jingle as she tried the door, just like always. Only this time, nothing about her return felt ordinary. I'd spent the last 48 hours in a state that can only be described as surgical. Focused, calm, detached, but hyper-aware of everything. I didn't rage. I didn't call her. I didn't fall apart. Instead, I prepared. You can learn a lot in 2 days. More than she probably imagined I could or would. I had gone back through our shared email, our calendar history, sync devices, even our old Google Photos backup. I pulled threads I never knew existed and watched entire timelines unravel. Restaurant receipts, rideshare logs, duplicate photos stored twice. One set in our cloud, another in her hidden folder. She'd done this more than once. Not always in Santa Barbara. Not always with Ryder. Sometimes there was no hotel at all. Just late nights, new bars, carefully crafted lies. By Saturday morning, I wasn't looking for proof anymore. I had enough to bury her version of events 6 feet deep. Now, I was building something different, clarity. And clarity came with structure. The house was spotless when she walked in. I cleaned everything top to bottom, not out of care, but intention. The coffee table gleamed. The cushions were fluffed. The throw blanket was folded neatly on the couch she'd once shared with a stranger behind my back. It all looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. And in the middle of that pristine space, sitting quietly, was Laura. She didn't say anything when Jennifer opened the door. She didn't stand up or make a scene. She was sitting comfortably on the couch, one leg folded beneath her, a mug in her hand. My mug, in fact. The navy ceramic one that said, "Grumpy but golden." A dumb gift Jennifer had given me on our 4th anniversary and had since claimed as her own. Laura wore the robe I never loaned out. The one Jennifer used to call off-limits, joking that it made me look like a hotel general manager. Jennifer stopped in her tracks when she saw her, like she'd opened the door to the wrong house. Her smile faltered. Laura met her gaze evenly, said nothing, and stood. She placed the mug gently on the coaster, walked across the room with perfect calm, and disappeared down the hall, toward the back of the house, where the guest bedroom was. No drama, no confrontation, just distance. Jennifer stood frozen in the entryway, keys still in one hand, her carry-on suitcase resting against her shin. She scanned the room like she didn't recognize it. Same pictures on the walls, same couch, same candles, but the atmosphere had shifted. She took a slow step inside and closed the door behind her. Her heels clicked against the hardwood as she walked forward cautiously, scanning every surface. I could see her eyes land on the kitchen table, on the manila folder that sat there center stage, carefully opened. She took another step forward, eyes narrowing. Inside the folder were pages I'd printed over the last 2 days. Hotel receipts, *TS, Instagram posts, rideshare logs, photos, conversations she thought had been deleted, reservations under false names, Venmo transactions labeled vaguely, and near the top, the crumpled napkin and lipstick I'd preserved from our bedroom windowsill. I hadn't scribbled any angry notes. I didn't leave sticky tab accusations or dramatic underlines. Just the facts. Cold, printed, organized. Jennifer stood at the table, motionless. Eventually, she reached out and touched the corner of one page, turning it over like she couldn't help herself. Her fingers trembled. Her jaw tightened. She flipped another page. I watched her from the hallway. She didn't know I was there. I'd been standing still for 10 minutes, listening as she entered, tracking every movement with quiet precision. I wanted to see how she'd react before she saw me. Her face didn't register confusion or guilt. Not at first. What I saw instead was calculation, like she was weighing her options, scanning the evidence, preparing the angle of attack. The way someone does when they think they can still control the story. But the longer she stared at the folder, the more that mask began to crack. Because there was no argument left to make. Not this time. Not here. She finally noticed me standing behind the hallway arch. "Travis," she breathed, voice low. I said nothing, just looked at her. Not angrily, not broken, just level. "Can we talk?" she asked, stepping slightly toward me, her voice switching to that soft register she used when she wanted to disarm me. Again, I said nothing. There was nothing to say. She motioned toward the folder. "I know this looks bad." That almost made me laugh. Almost. I tilted my head slightly. "Looks bad." Her lips parted, searching for the next line. "I don't want to lose you. This wasn't supposed to happen." I got confused. Confused. That was her word. She wasn't denying it. Not really. But she wasn't owning it either. She reached out across the table, hand hovering just above the folder like she was going to close it, wipe it clean, as if the physical act could erase what it meant. I stepped into the room fully and spoke for the first time. "Leave it." She flinched at the tone. Flat, clipped, the voice of a man who didn't need more explanations. "Can we go somewhere private?" She tried again. "Just you and me?" I shook my head. "No. Travis, please." Still, I didn't move, didn't blink. Her shoulders fell. The performance was starting to collapse. Slowly, beautifully, she turned toward the guest hallway, glancing down it like she'd forgotten Laura was here, like that part of the scene had been too surreal to compute. "Why is she?" Jennifer began. "She knows," I said. "Everything." Jennifer's eyes widened. "You told her?" "No," I said. "She told me." That landed harder than anything else so far. I watched the realization pass over her face in real time. It was like watching a mirror crack down the center. She had no idea Laura and I had spoken. That while Jennifer was off posting curated yacht photos, Laura had messaged me out of the blue. Said she felt sick keeping quiet any longer. Said she hadn't known the full extent of it all until recently. But once she saw Ryder's name, it clicked. Turned out Ryder wasn't new to the scene. Neither was Jennifer's behavior. Laura hadn't planned to stay, just drop something off, apologize, offer closure. But I'd asked her to stick around. I didn't need her to confront Jennifer. I just needed the silence in the house to sound different when the truth walked back through the front door. Jennifer stood in the living room, all the colors drained from her face. She wasn't in control of the room anymore, and she knew it. She reached for her suitcase and slowly rolled it toward the stairs. "Where are you going?" I asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "To get changed." "You can use the guest bathroom," I said. Her head snapped toward me. "Seriously?" "Yes." "But my stuff." I stepped closer. "The guest bathroom, Jennifer." She didn't argue again. She just rolled her bag quietly to the hallway, the rubber wheels thudding softly over the hardwood, like they didn't want to be heard anymore. Once she was gone, I picked up the manila folder and placed it gently back in the drawer. I didn't need to look at it again. I already knew how the story went, and so did she. The next morning, I got the call I'd been expecting. Jennifer's attorney, or maybe just the one she scrambled to find overnight, left a polite voicemail suggesting we start discussing terms amicably. She said she was reaching out in the spirit of cooperation, that Jennifer hoped we could avoid turning this into a drawn-out process. The tone was warm, professional, disguised concern hidden under corporate courtesy. I didn't return the call. Instead, I forwarded the number to my lawyer. His name was Bennett. I'd hired him the same day Jennifer left for her fake trip. Older guy, sharp as hell, calm in a way that let you know he'd been through this exact fire with other people and had seen worse. When I handed him the folder, hotel receipts, photos, email printouts, he barely blinked. Just nodded once and said, "She's not going to fight this. Not if she has a halfway decent advisor." And she didn't. That was the thing. Once the evidence was laid out, there was nothing for her to do but fold. The hearing was quiet, procedural. A Tuesday morning, pale light in the courtroom, the kind of sterile setting where emotions feel out of place. I didn't dress for drama, just slacks and a button-up. Clean-shaven, clear-eyed. I'd rehearsed what I'd say in case they asked me anything directly. They didn't. My lawyer did most of the talking. He walked the judge through a sequence of digital events. Hotel confirmations, overlapping timelines, social media posts, and receipts that contradicted Jennifer's original claims. There was no shouting, no gasps, just a methodical dismantling of her story. Every picture had a timestamp. Every reservation had a name. Every lie had a breadcrumb. I watched Jennifer from across the room. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, but in the way someone deflates when their version of reality stops working. Her hair was up, makeup minimal. She wore a navy dress I recognized from a holiday party 2 years ago. Back then, it looked radiant. Here, it just looked like armor that no longer fit. She didn't look at me. Not once. Her lawyer did most of her speaking. Talked about emotional strain, marital drift, how both parties may have contributed to the breakdown. It was the kind of language designed to neutralize everything, to flatten the betrayal into a shared misunderstanding. But the documents said otherwise. Jennifer's voice only entered the room once. When the judge asked if she still wished to request spousal support, she paused, glanced at her attorney, then quietly said, "No." That was it. No, just a single syllable that carried everything she didn't want to say out loud. "I know I don't deserve it." I didn't react, didn't gloat, didn't make eye contact. I just sat there, hands folded, listening as the legal version of my marriage was dissolved like it was a business contract gone stale. People say courtrooms are cold, that they lack heart. They're right, but in that moment, I appreciated the cold. It was clean. It didn't care about sob stories or apologies whispered too late. It just dealt with the facts. And for once, the facts were on my side. When it was over, Bennett shook my hand and told me I'd done well. I don't know what well looks like in a room like that, but I nodded anyway and thanked him. Outside the courthouse, the sun felt wrong on my face, too warm for what just happened. I stood there on the sidewalk for a minute, watching people walk by, completely unaware of the shift that had just taken place inside me. I was officially no longer married. Jennifer exited a few minutes later, accompanied by her attorney. She didn't look at me even then, just stepped into the back seat of a black car and pulled the door closed without a word. I half expected her to roll down the window, say something. She didn't, and I didn't wait for her to. Instead, I went home. The first thing I did was go to the guest room. I opened the closet and pulled out the last box of her things. Sweaters, a few books, a coffee mug from Sedona. I placed the box by the door. She'd already moved out most of her belongings a week prior, but these were leftovers. Remnants. Pieces she'd forgotten or maybe hoped I'd hold on to. I wouldn't. That evening, I sat in the kitchen with a beer I didn't feel like drinking and went through the last of our shared files. Documents, billing accounts, subscriptions. I changed passwords, redirected addresses, closed joint memberships. Each click was its own kind of closure. Halfway through canceling our streaming account, I found myself staring at the screen, remembering how she used to fall asleep on the couch halfway through whatever show we were watching. How she'd curl up beside me with her feet tucked under a throw blanket and say, "Wake me up before the ending. I don't want to miss it." She always missed it, and now she'd missed the ending of us too. I deleted the profile with her name on it and closed the laptop. The next morning, a new email came in. Subject line, "Can we talk?" I didn't open it. I didn't need to. There was nothing left to clarify. She'd made her decisions. I'd made mine. And now the paper trail made everything final. A few days later, Laura stopped by. Not planned. She knocked gently in the late afternoon, holding a Tupperware container and a half-apologetic smile. "I made that lentil stew you used to like," she said, handing it over. We sat on the porch for a while, not talking about Jennifer, just sipping tea and watching the sun drop below the neighbor's roofline. There was no tension between us. No unspoken "what now?" Just two people who had somehow survived the same storm from opposite shores. She asked how I was holding up. I told her the truth. "Better than I expected." She nodded. "Good. You deserve that." I didn't ask her to stay, and she didn't push to. But before she left, she put a hand on my shoulder and said, "You're not broken, Travis. Just bruised. That heals." I believed her. Eventually, that night I went to bed alone. No more guest in the hallway. No more soft footsteps outside my door. The house was mine again. And for the first time in months, maybe longer, I slept through the night. No dreams. No dread. Just sleep. Like my body finally believed the war was